Hey everybody, Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carbajal here, as always with Matthew Hawkins. Uh, Week of UFC 262 after Bellator 258. Lots of fights going on. Matt, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Ed. Doing well.
Almost forgot to mention this is brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. Make sure you check out All Access MMA for your MMA news. Rough week over here in Jersey, so sorry about that.
no, doing well. Week's going okay, and world seems to be getting a little bit more normal every day. I don't know what that means, but
If you can call it normal, yeah, I
exactly,
guess.
I guess that's kind of the point. But yeah, I mean, probably the worst thing this week is Derek Anderson's nose. That's probably the worst thing after MVP basically compressed it into his skull. But
Yeah, that was I mean, I guess we will before we get into our UFC 262 picks, we might as well backtrack and look back at the fights from over the weekend. I mean, we had PFL Thursday night, Bellator Friday night, and then there was a short UFC on Saturday night. Um, you know, you started with we might as well start with Bellator. You mentioned Derek Anderson's nose. I thought that I was actually impressed with how he wanted to keep going. I know Nolan, who's been on the podcast over at MMA Junkie, said that the commission reached out to Junkie and apparently he tested positive for some sort of substance. So I don't know if that's what made him, not feel his nose going inside of his head, but still impressive that he wanted to keep fighting, in my opinion.
yeah. I'm not going to comment too much on the fight. It was probably not the smartest strategy to fight with your hands down against MVP. I don't know when we'll get to a point where people realize that that's not the way to do it. But I'm not a professional fighter, and he is. So, and he's a good one. So MVP looked dominant. Gets me a little bit more excited for a possible rematch with Douglas Lima.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
something like
Oh well,
that.
he said he wouldn't call out Lima, but if I remember correctly, didn't they fight at 175? If I'm
No,
remembering
because
right,
it was the tournament fight.
no, I'm talking about Anderson and
Oh yeah.
MVP.
This last fight, yes, this last one was a catch weight 175.
Yeah, so that's my thing with way back when Douglas Lima had said a comment, about they asked him about when are you going to give MVP another chance or something to that effect, and he was like, well, when he starts beating the best welterweights or whatever. So technically, that wasn't a welterweight fight if it's 175. I know it's only 5 pounds, but I don't know. I mean, just something to mention. He's legit though. He that's the second cranial, fracture that he's caused in Bellator at least. Outside as a Cyborg, he caved in Cyborg's skull, and then he does this to Anderson's nose. So maybe it's worth mentioning or starting to, chat that up again.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna have to keep moving up. I'm not gonna hold the. I think it was kind of a late notice fight. I don't think this was on the card that long. So considering Anderson, I think was ranked in the new rankings. I think it's still like 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a win over a good fighter, even though it was 5 pounds heavier. But that kicked off the main card that night. Earlier in the night, there was a good prelim. Lorenz Larkin, Rafael Cavallo. First round, I thought Larkin came out, looked as good as he's ever looked in a fight, really pressed. From that point on, Carvalho kind of started to take over, or at least even the odds. And the second round was close. Third round was also really close. So I actually kind of was leaning towards a draw. It ended up being a split decision for Lorenz Larkin. I think the right guy won the fight. If you had to pick a winner, but I thought it was extremely close, and those last 2 rounds made it difficult to judge who was winning. Did you catch that one? How did you think Larkin looked in his return?
I thought it looked good. I'm just looking to see now that you're mentioning it. I didn't get to the Bellator just put out their rankings, their updated rankings. So there's movement now that you're mentioning that fight. I just want to see who moved up, who made it in. Now, I didn't get a chance to look at them. I'm looking to see if I can find find if anything happened with that division as far as movement.
Well, I don't think Larkin was ranked. So is he on the top 10? Do you see him in the welterweight top 10?
Looking at it right now. That's actually why I was checking. But no, he's not. He's not. So that didn't move at all, actually, oddly enough.
You know what? The fight was probably at 180. Was it at 185? Yes, it was. Carvalho's the 185 champion. Is he ranked in the 185 division?
That's men's middleweight. Salter, Toko, Vanderford, Edwards, Valenstinas, Eblin, Ward, Shipman, Bruce. Oh,
interesting. Interesting. So we'll see how that plays out. But Lorenz Larkin picks up a big win. It's a couple in a row now. He's looking pretty good. Carvalho just started to look like his old self a little bit as that fight progressed. I know you had to be impressed with Patchy Mix dominating pretty much start to finish and picking up another submission win.
Yeah, of course. Patrick Mix, man. I mean, he was number 2. He stayed number 2 in the I'm looking at the rankings now. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there. With also, I mean, Rafian Stotts also ranked number 4, teammate of Sergio Pettis. What was funny about, everyone knows by now that Sergio's the new champ at Bellator from the main event, and Archuleta drops to number 1. What's odd about that is, I don't know. I mean, again, it could have been because of who was asking at the end of the fight, but the question was posed to Pettis because, with the rankings the way they are and Stotts being number 4, would you fight your own teammate? Which I always think is a weird question, because obviously nobody wants to fight their teammates. Who knows you better than your teammate, number 1, number 2? There's just kind of a respect factor. And Sergio kind of gave a good championship answer, like he's got to fight whoever Bellator sends his way now that he's a champ. But Stotts in his post-fight interview said, I'm completely happy being Sergio's gatekeeper. I don't want to fight my teammate. I'd rather people get through me to get to him. And I thought that was a cool answer.
Yeah, for Sergio Pettis. Yeah, I agree. I mean, and plus, I don't think they should be asking that question unless it's like unless they actually negotiated the fight, But again, Ed's not a big fan of the man that stands in the ring and does post fight for Bellator. So that jumps us, we'll get to the main event here in a second, but so Patchy Mix picks up the submission win, and then on the co-main event, Anthony Rumble Johnson returns to Bellator. Not returns to Bellator, makes his Bellator debut.
Returns to fighting
in the light heavyweight tournament. He fought Jose Augusto Acevedo. Last minute replacement for Yoel Romero. Wild, 6 minutes of fighting, 6.5 minutes of fighting. Anthony Johnson came out early, put pressure on. Azevedo damaged his hand, threw him off for a little bit. Johnson had him backing up, went in for a kill, and Azevedo just clocked him, ended up getting him down, and was actually landed a couple good shots on the ground. Was really a couple punches away maybe from pulling off one of the biggest upsets in recent memory. But Johnson survived the first round, and shortly into the second round landed a kill shot on Acevedo, massive right hand that just floored him.
Yeah, I mean, cobwebs or whatever you want to call it, but I mean, obviously Johnson came back to the Johnson folks remember. It's sad, the news that came out today about the whole credit card situation. I know it just came out, and that I'm sure more details will emerge as time passes. But as far as the fight's concerned, one of the things I noticed about that, first, Johnson didn't really know. He actually admitted afterward that the punch did shake him, and kind of like he said he didn't remember getting hit that hard. And then one thing about the exchange was because he wound up with Jose Augusto on top of him. The thing there's a point where he reverses Augusto, and his right hand is reaching out, and Augusto grabs Johnson's wrist with his left hand, and reaches over to do the Kimura, but because of whatever happened to his right hand, he couldn't finish the double wrist grab. Like he reaches over. If you rewatch the fight, he'll reach over and then he just lays down because he's like, I can't make this sub. So I don't know if his hand was broken or what. I mean, I didn't see any details, and I don't think we got any updates. We'd have to look at the suspensions and stuff. Nolan was there, so he probably knows. Maybe I'll reach out to him later. But I feel like the submission was there because Johnson was still kind of like trying to recover from the left hand that shook him. So, but that was definitely, like you said, it was interesting, made for an entertaining fight. I mean, I'm really pleased with this card overall, just because of how well it went. I'm trying to see if there's any notable. I mean, Johnson goes in at number 4 light heavyweight rankings. I hope this situation with the credit card thing, and it's not major enough, because it seems like every time he does have issues like this, something else happens and people don't file charges or whatever. But I mean, if I recall, if you can go on Bellator's website to read when they announce their fighter rankings, things that would remove them from rankings, and I would assume from the Bellator roster, legal trouble is one of them. I mean, Bellator's done it before. They've dropped War Machine and all these guys for making bad decisions in their personal lives. But I hope this is some sort of misunderstanding. I mean, my exchanges with Johnson have been pleasant, and he seems like a soft-spoken, nice guy. I don't know, man. Yeah, crazy news. Fight news is always crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super surprised. You know what I mean? But and not necessarily because it was him, just because we get this kind of weird vibe that goes through our sport, where people, only in MMA would somebody try credit card fraud after making probably $250,000. Just hours before,
for $500, which is
So I mean, it's pretty incredible. But yeah. So, but he picks up the win. So my God, I hope we get him versus Nemkov. That's we lost the Yoel Rumble fight, so hopefully that whole bracket's not cursed. But it does set up that fight, and with Corey Anderson and Ryan Bader on the other side of the bracket. So, the cream's rising to the top in their Grand Prix so far. Another fight of note that I skipped, Peter Queally picked up a doctor stoppage win over Tricky Pitbull. A fight I thought Pitbull was winning, but he got pretty nasty cut on the face, and at that point the doctors had to wave it off. Queally picks up a win in kind of weird fashion, but moves up into a what ranking is he at? Is he listed?
He wasn't before that, and now he jumps in at number 6.
Okay, yeah. See, quickly moves into the mix. Did Patricky Pitbull, is he still ranked?
No.
Okay, so he's had a couple losses.
I'm sorry, he's number 2.
Oh, they have Patricky that high.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, then
Patricio's number 1. Brent Primus is. I'm sorry, Patricio's champ, and Brent Primus is number 1. Patricky's number 2.
They should just run that back then. As soon as his eye is healed, they should just run that fight back.
I think that's going to happen, because when a fight ends over a tech, I mean, I don't want to call it a technicality. It was, the elbows are thrown intentionally to do something, and I guess that either a cut or a knockout is the intended result. So he got the intended result.
Yeah. I mean, it was legit, but it just feels like it wasn't right, considering, like I said, I thought Pitbull was winning the fight. I'm not sure what the judges saw it. As we know, that the judges can be crazy with their cards. Now, I shouldn't say that much, considering we were both pretty much as wrong as you could be on the main event. We both thought Juan Archuleta would pretty much do his thing and take out Sergio Pettis. Did not happen. Sergio Pettis basically looked how I thought Juan Archuleta would look, and completely turned the script and dominated the fight.
Yeah.
Basically 5 rounds to none, 4 rounds to 1.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. I mean, especially since we were both kind of hard on the kid. Sergio Pettis, who's, they keep mentioning him and his brother together, and it's almost like I don't want to say living under his brother's shadow or whatever, but this changes that for him, and changes my opinion of how he fights, especially in this fight. talk about being. I mean, he threw a couple of fancy moves that were in there that I was kind of like, let's get out of there. And the one jump spin he did at the end of round 1 or 2, I forget which one, but the thing that won me over with him was the fact that he excuse me, the fact that he did counterpunching on the inside that we haven't seen from. I mean, I don't know. I can't recall his brother being that great of a counterpuncher, as good as Sergio was that night. Definitely coming into his own, making his own way and name in Bellator, and I really thought that that was the key to winning the fight. Looked like, I mean, he had Archuleta kind of, I don't want to say throwing haymakers or whatever you call it, uncontrolled, but he really made him step outside of his game. I mean, he didn't seem to find his own groove until the final round when he did that takedown, and that wasn't enough. Obviously, that wasn't enough to win the fight. But I mean, superb performance. I'm looking forward to. I think he can defend the title. Maybe this is the guy that you need to see him fight. The Patrick Mixes and the Darian Caldwell and whomever's the top one. Bellator's 135 division historically, to me, has always been kind of a Shark Tank for them. Like, that's been one of their high profile divisions. I mean, since the days of Joe Warren and whomever else. I can't think of
Dantes and
Eduardo Dantes.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. It's one of their longer standing divisions as well. No, impressive. The guy that we don't mention, but can't wait till we see him back in Bellator is Horiguchi. Once that guy, I mean, in theory, this is his belt. This is, if we're gonna be, if we're gonna, I don't use the term paper champion, but if you are gonna use it, this is what it would mean. The champ gave up the belt. So when Horiguchi comes back, whoever it's against, it could still be against Archuleta. Who knows how this is gonna unfold, or what the next fight's gonna be. But like you said, it's a murderer's row there, and anybody he fights, we love what Bellator's doing. I think Coker came out the other day and basically said we would be having crossover fights left and right now. If it weren't for COVID and the travel restrictions.
And he said that at the post-fight press conference too. I mean, somebody asked, I forget who asked, because Pettis was open about saying let me go to Ryzen and try to get that going again. But I mean, that was one of the early questions in the post-fight press conference, and Coker was just like, only reason he and Sakakibara haven't spoken about stuff like that is because there's really nothing they can do until things start opening up. So yeah, man, I mean, that's gonna, imagine that when that happens, it's just gonna be super entertaining. Especially, I feel like maybe fans are a little bit more aware of the product over there in Japan because of what we saw from Yuri Prochazka at the UFC event from a week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. So yeah, man, I'm excited for that.
Let's throw this in the mix. How crazy would it be? Because we know that Saki Akabara had a meeting with Dana White also that apparently went well or friendly. So what if we get Ryzen on Fight Pass co-promoting with Bellator? I mean, it could be an interesting thing. I'd love to see if Ryzen could get on Fight Pass, considering the option we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. The only, it's funny. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they've worked together in the past. I know they've. It's really. I mean, I know. I feel like the beef with Espinoza, when they did the Mayweather McGregor thing, because they co-promoted that. The UFC helped with the marketing and stuff for that too. I feel like that was more from Connor's end, not so much from Dana White in the UFC. So I know that's competition for them, but I mean, you don't know that the landscape of the sport is changing so much. We all know the UFC went public a week or two ago. So they're going to have, there's investors that have questions, or there's things that they want. I forgot what class their trade, the Endeavor shares, not UFC, Endeavor went public a couple weeks ago. And I forget if shareholders can vote on things when it comes time to vote on things. So if that's the case, then there's going to be, either, things will loosen up and the sport actually coming together, maybe making it a little bit closer. And then maybe I'm not saying no Ali Act will pass or anything like that, but you know what I mean? It's just as far as stuff like you just said, I feel like we're getting a little.
And
slowly.
I'm thinking more Ryzen on Fight Pass. I wasn't thinking the Showtime angle, but that even brings it better. Why not Ryzen on Showtime? Let's just
That's more likely than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do they got going on? They got what, 7 Showtime channels? What's going on at 3 a.m.?
Yeah.
Why not have that on? So I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, Showtime Sports and Entertainment. I mean, I know Espinoza, like, it's supposed to be for concerts and stuff. And they have boxing, and now they have Bellator, the product of Bellator, which seems to be doing really well. If you look at the numbers, I mean, it's helping. It seems to have helped Showtime subscribership with as far as digital platforms and people that stream it. And again, the way that they're promoting it, we've talked about it before. You're having the high profile boxers on Bellator events talking about their boxing and vice versa, which it's working because you're getting folks watching both things. That weekend they did the boxing and MMA. I didn't watch the full fight card for the boxing, but I thought it was great. I mean, it's stuff like that. It's only going to get better, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everything they're doing right now is right. They just need some fights to fall into place. Not have fighters
open
have
up
issues.
yeah,
and get crowds. It sounds like you might have a crowd out there for not out there where you're at, but in Connecticut for 260. Bellator 260 is what I heard. They might open that up to some fans. So
yeah, in June they're talking about doing something in June. It might be limited or whatever. That's a great venue. It sucks because that means a bubble. I mean, I kind of wanted to experience a bubble when I went out there. Because I'm going to try to go out there for cover the Lima Asimov. What's
Amasov?
Amasov. I always mess up the name. Welterweight. Make sure. Yeah, Amasov. Yaroslav Amosov. I'm going to try to get out there to cover that for MMAnews.com. And if that's the event, because then they announced the interim title fight for the heavyweight division between Tim Johnson and another name I got her not
Moldavsky,
Moldavsky, yeah. So that's at 261. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it is. I mean, if you listen to, we don't want to get all newsy and political about COVID, but I mean, it seems like the virus is going to be magically gone by the fall. So. The way folks are opening stuff back up, I mean, with the dates that we're getting in Broadway here in New York, it's going to be all ready to go.
Well, yeah, it'll be for us maybe the fall, but
yeah.
For other parts of the country, it's open, as seen by Canelo Alvarez 8th round TKO stoppage over Billy Joe Sanders in front of 73,000 people in Cowboy Stadium. So Canelo Alvarez picks up a win, moves to 56-1. The only loss to Floyd Mayweather. And other issue of note comes out of the New Jersey Athletic Commission in relation to last week's PFL event, Fabricio Verdun versus Renan Ferreira. A situation where Ferreira tapped. And that's what they see it. I guess I'm glad that it got moved from a loss for Verdun to a no contest. But the more I think about it, why isn't it just a win for Verdun? If they're admitting that the dude tapped out, it seems like that's cut and dry, that it should be a win.
Well, I mean, I guess they just want to close the issue, because then if you flip the result, then Ferreira probably, I would imagine Ferreira has the option to contest the result of that, and then it spirals into a whirlwind of whatever. But the good thing about it, I mean, I had to actually downloaded them when I wrote the article about that yesterday over at MMAnews.com. So that was filed that night after Verdun did his post-fight interview. And then at the post-fight press conference, Lauren Mack, who does the PR for PFL, said that Verdun filed his appeal, and they're going to wait for the commission result. And when it looked like, I mean, funny how fast it happened. I mean, not for nothing, I guess, because New Jersey doesn't have to deal with a lot of that. It was easy for them to just get it done. So if you look at the rankings, they both got a point each for the PFL format. Folks will know. you win, you get points to fall into. We're still in the regular season, so the top 4 of every division with the most points are the ones that get to the playoffs for the Professional Fighter League season. So both of them got 1 point, but where Doom is in the number 4 spot as of right now, and Fajeda at number 5. The reason that happened is if you look at the PFL rules, this is all on their website. They do a really good job of making everything transparent for folks to look. When something like that happens and a commission turns it over, the person that is perceived as doing wrong for the PFL side, once the commission is done, the person that is perceived as the one being guilty of wrongdoing is the one that's going to be for the PFL to be the loser, which is why where Doom is now in right now he's safe for the playoffs and Fajeda isn't. So I mean that's kind of
I didn't know that. That's better then.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier for the commission to make it a no contest as quick as they did, as opposed to doing a full review to try to see if you're giving a guy a win and that kind of thing. So that all makes sense. But props, I guess. When you got to give credit when credit's due. They New Jersey Athletic Commission did make the right decision, and they did it quickly. So
it's the original playground of unified rules of MMA. So
yeah.
it's nice. It's nice when Larry Hazard brings out the old school, love for the sport and does something. Right.
It was nice to see.
And one thing I know, one more thing about that before we move on to do our UFC picks. Keith Peterson was a referee for that fight, and he actually told in a letter he gave to the commission that was given to ESPN. He said if he saw the tap, if you saw the fight, Peterson was on the other side. The tap was behind where Doom's opposite shoulder, so that's why he didn't see it. No fault on his. But he flat out said, if I did see it, I would have stopped it, and this wouldn't have happened. We're doing would have been the winner. So that helps.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It was clear enough that it caused a lot of controversy, and the fact that Verdun immediately thought he tapped, and it wasn't something he just came up with after watching the footage and everything. Yeah, it was the right decision to be made, and it'll be interesting to see how the next fights go because it is a difference between 6 points and 1 point for Verdun. I mean, 6 points would have basically locked him in. No, he could have just tapped out as soon as the next fight starts.
Yeah,
and still probably made the playoffs. But with that said, yes, let's move to this weekend's big UFC 262 pay-per-view from a sold-out Houston, Texas.
And you're not going to this one, right?
No, I will be getting tickets tomorrow for the next one though. For 63.
63 is that's Adesanya one?
Yeah, Adesanya, Figueiredo, Moreno, and Diaz and Diaz Edwards. But this weekend as loaded as it. This event did lose Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, which obviously is going to hurt any card.
And really quick, on top of that, due to COVID protocols, this is on the UFC announced it earlier this afternoon. Jack Hermanson versus Edmund Shabazian rescheduled for May 22nd on the Font Garbrandt card. And then visa complications also had Joel Alvarez removed from his lightweight bout against Carlos Gallegos. Replacing him is Sean Soriano, who's coming back to the UFC apparently to do this. So, and then Matt Schnell versus Rogerio Bonterin is being contested at bantamweight, which is all on the undercard. But I mean, and they all can't be UFC 261.
No, that event held together, and this one, at least the two of the prime fights held. So, and the championship most importantly. But
I just want the main event to hold. That's all I want
at this point. Yes, but starting off the main card, kicks off with Matt Schnell, the fight you just mentioned. Two flyweights that will pretty much be throwing down. Well, we'll be throwing down at 135 bantamweight. Number 8 ranked Matt Schnell versus 9 ranks Rogerio Bontorin. A real close fight. Odds makers have it fairly close also.
I'm going to say something about them when we get to the main event.
I think it's going to be a decision. I'm going to go with Schnell just to pull out a decision win here. Bonario's on a couple fight losing streaks, although to tough fighters, and Schnell coming off of a win. I'll go with Schnell in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, interesting that they're going to contest that bantamweight, but I don't know if that favors either fighter more. Maybe it favors Bontorian because they're normally 125ers, but no, I'm with you on that one. I think I don't see any reason to disagree.
The second fight on the pay-per-view portion of the card, Shane Burgos, number 9 ranked, steps in against Junior Edson Barbosa, continuing his attempted run at 145 pounds. Barbosa coming off of a win and 2 split decision losses, and while Burgos coming off of a loss to Josh Emmett in his last fight. But the only 2 people in his career able to stop him are killers Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a banger right here.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's one of those, I tend to lean Barbosa, just because that's kind of his. If he can get out there and just throw crazy stuff and be a wild man, he tends to get the job done. I also like him still at 145. If he can make that weight healthy, I think that it's just an adjustment that will eventually lead to really good success. With that said, I will take him to win this fight. I'm gonna go with a mid-fight TKO win. I think he lands some kind of kick, elbow, something big, and it just stops or slows the fight, and he's able to finish it off.
Yeah, this is a hard one to pick for me personally, just because I got to look deeply at their records and maybe rewatch a few fights. That's how much before I submit my picks officially to Sherdog and MMA News and stuff for this event. But I mean, like you said, I first of all, I do think this is going to be fight of the night contender, if not winner. And then, well, outside of the main event, but I mean, the main event, I feel like that might be a shocker for a lot of folks. But for this one, oh man, it's really hard because I like Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos is as game as any fighter. He's probably the most. I feel like he's probably out of all the Tiger Schulman guys, he's probably the one that's brought it most recently outside. I mean, because when you look at all the UFC Tiger Schulman guys, it's him, Jimmy Rivera, and what's his name, the welterweight fellow. He's been fighting for a long time, CFFC guy. Slips my mind, but he's definitely the one that seems to be the one that's going to get as close as they can to a title shot. So I really got to rewatch the fight, but I'm for now, for this podcast, I think I'm going to side with you because
Lyman Good?
Lyman Good's the guy I couldn't remember. Yeah. Thank you. One thing though about James Lynch, who was on the podcast, and he works with me over at MMAnews.com, and we both work at a few places together. He interviewed Barbosa, and I transcribed the interview and wrote an article. One thing I think of their personal, I mean, Rose Namajunas is a perfect example. Somebody that's just in a positive state of mind coming into a fight without like they're just happy to be doing what they're going to be doing. I feel like that counts for a lot. I haven't seen anything from Burgos as far as this fight goes. But Barbosa, talking to Lynch, I mean, he almost can't wait to get in there the way you can't wait to get to, like, the weekend or your favorite party, or, in your case, UFC 261. You know what I mean? So that was like the vibe I got from him talking to James Lynch. So that's the other reason I'm kind of agreeing with you on that one. So yeah, we're both, so far so good. We're both in agreement.
That brings us to the women's fight on the main card. Go back 1 second. Go to the other page.
To Shane?
No. Just to the other. Click on the Caitlin card. There you go. So Caitlin Chikagian, number 2 ranked, faces off against Vivian Araujo. Araujo coming off a couple big wins. Roxanne Modafari, one of them, and Chikagian coming off a win over Cynthia Cavallo. And really, her only losses are to Shevchenko and Andrade. Some serious competition. I I'm not generally a huge fan of Chukagian. Her fights tend to, although professional, tend to be not the most violent in the sports history.
Mhm.
Um, but she always wins. It seems like, uh, like I said, other than against the killers, the Carmouches, I believe beat her in New York for 205.
Yeah.
Um, the question is, can I think Chukagian's going to win a decision? I don't know what it is. She manages to work her way around the cage. She has generalmanship or whatever the heck word we used last. Ringmanship that didn't pay off for Archuleta at all. But she manages to do that, and she
Yeah.
manages to really not suffer a lot of damage. And some fights she wins are real close, but um, I I just feel like she tends to use people's aggression against them sometimes and turn
Yeah.
fights into kind of real slow fights and where she's able just to, like I said, basically circle and jab and just rudimentally strike her way to wins. And
Yeah.
um, I mean, I think she'll do it again.
Yeah. No, you're ring generalship
There you go.
is the word. Shout out. You know, it's funny. I texted when we got done. One of the outlets that I used to write for, Front Proof Media. I had a long conversation. It's an inside joke actually with me and Joseph Correa, who runs Front Proof Media. Shout out to Joseph if you're listening to this. But we had a laugh about that because we had a long conversation about how that term is thrown around in boxing and no one can really explain what it means. And I swore that I'd never use it in MMA, and then there I went last week and used it, and here I am using it again. But because I agree with you. Not only do I agree with everything you said, but Caitlin Chukagian, that's another one. I mean, just FYI, Lynch interviewed almost 3 people on the main. I forget how many fighters, but Chukagian was the other fighter from this event that Lynch interviewed, and she's gunning to get a rematch with either of the people she lost to, and she has a reach advantage, which we're looking at the page that we display on the video version of this is from UFC.com's event page, which includes some of their stats, and she's got a reach advantage, leg reach advantage mainly over, and her roots are in kickboxing, so I completely agree with you, especially with her being Mark Henry's her striking coach, and everything you said about footwork and being able to manage the cage and ring generalship, if that's what that means, you know what I mean? Like that's what's gonna win her the fight. I can see her outpointing. She does seem to be getting better with her grappling. I mean, if you look, I mean, I don't know if she still does the commute that she does to train, but or she's getting over to Almeida's where a lot of those guys train out here in Jersey and South Jersey. You know, Frankie Edgar and all those guys for that do the Mark Henry thing. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think she can pull off a decision win in this one.
Co-main event of the night. Number 5, Tony Ferguson. Number 9, Beneil Dariush. Dariush on a long win streak. Ferguson on the opposite of that, a 2-fight losing streak with devastating losses to both Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira. Oh my, great fight.
Yeah.
Love to see Dariush get a chance to take that next step. And this is the fight, that would do it for him if he's able to become victorious. 6-fight win streak over pretty solid run of UFC lightweights. I mean, this fight to me just comes down to did Justin Gaethje just take too much out of Tony Ferguson, and did Charles Oliveira kind of finish off what was left?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean mentally, but physically, as far as
Yeah.
the amount of punishment a human being can take, and still be able to bring
Compete
it
at the
to
level
that
that
level.
yeah.
Exactly. Same as a quarterback who gets sacked a million times. You can
Yeah.
only take so much. So that's what it comes down to me. If it's the old Tony Ferguson, I think he wins this fight. But the way I've been seeing these guys fight lately, Dariush has looked like the guy who should be the lightweight champion or competing for a lightweight championship, where Ferguson, although against just top shelf competition, hasn't in his last couple fights, and it's been violent. Like I said, it's been violent losses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna I don't know what the odds are for this fight. I'm sure I can find them here pretty quick, but I'm gonna go with Dariush to actually win this fight.
Mm.
Um, and I kind of wish it was a 5-round fight because I think he could actually maybe even get a finish in a longer round fight. Because I just think that there's only so much that Ferguson's going to be able to take. I'm going to take Dariush, but by decision. But I think he's actually going to kind of dominate the fight. I think he's going to step up his game in the biggest fight of his life, and I think he's going to just. I think he's going to win a decision in this fight.
Mm. I still have faith in El Kukui. I think I mean while I do my end, maybe check the odds on that too.
It's they have according to Tapology, they have Dariush as a slight favorite at -145. Ferguson, the slight underdog, at +125.
Mm.
So basically a coin toss, which is a surprise to me. I would have thought that honestly Ferguson would have been favored, just based off of the money coming in from his past,
Okay.
long time performances.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be like I said, if Ferguson's there and it's the Tony Ferguson from 5 fights ago,
Yeah.
I think he finishes Dariush, but I don't think that person exists on this planet anymore. And it, I just don't think it's there. I hope he's surprised.
No. I mean, I can't win by submission. Actually, Dariush has more wins by submission according to UFC stats. Yeah, I mean,
on paper, it's about as even as you can get.
Yeah, I'm just as I scroll through all the UFC's stats and striking and win by submission, KO. I mean, it looks like we just talked about how cut can change stuff. Talking about the Patricky and Quealy fight. I mean, if and this image of Tony Ferguson on the UFC website shows his protruding bony shoulders and elbows, in which case, which he's been known to slice folks open up in the past. I'm going to disagree with you. I feel like when you look at who he lost to, his 2 fights. I mean, it's Justin Gaethje who win or lose. Usually, fighters after they fight Justin Gaethje are still not this. They're not who they were before they fought Justin Gaethje. Let's just put that out there. I mean, that's my opinion. Disagree if you want, but I mean, you can look at the fighters that have beat him and see what's happened afterwards.
Only Poirier. Poirier is the only one who came through that and has excelled after fighting. Fighting him.
Yeah, he's the exception.
Yeah.
But everyone else seems to have taken this shell shock of experiencing Justin Gaethje. And if you think I'm wrong, then look at Kamaru Usman's interview, who trained over there for his last fight with Justin Gaethje, one of his sparring partners. Watch his facial expression when he's asked about what's it like to train with Justin Gaethje, and it can only give you a hint of the type of fighter Gaethje is. But this is about this fight. I actually feel like I think Ferguson can either win by opening up a cut on Dariush, or if he goes back, like you said, to the old Ferguson that we used to know and love and was winning all the time, I wouldn't be surprised if he slaps one of them diamond cutter level Darce chokes out of nowhere, because he used to set those up lovely. So,
and then he would do that by hurting his opponent and then just getting them in the
transition. He did it from standing once, which was amazing, but only somebody with a 76.5 inch reach, which he's got a reach advantage. With his wingspan over Dariush here by a few 4 inches. It could happen in round 1, maybe halfway through round 2. Yeah, if not, then you're probably going to be right, but we'll see.
No,
never know in MMA.
Great fight, great. Glad. I think it's as good a fight as you can ask for. Honestly, I look forward to that one.
Mm-hmm.
Now the main event, we get Charles Oliveira. This is for the vacant lightweight championship. The belt surrendered by Khabib Nurmagomedov. Charles Oliveira coming off a win over
Ferguson.
Over Ferguson and Kevin Lee, and I mean just on a massive win streak at this point. Michael Chandler coming off his UFC debut win over Dan Hooker, first round knockout. I think you said you had some issues with the odds makers. I'm currently seeing, according to Tapology, and I don't know if this is what you have, I have Chandler at basically a plus 110,
Yeah.
an even underdog, and Charles Oliveira at a minus 135 slight favorite. Is that about what you see?
Yeah, I know it's a slight underdog or whatever, but I mean, just to have him I know they have to have an over, they don't have to, but I honestly think I don't think odds makers. I don't know how that works. You probably have I think you tried to explain it to me a couple of episodes ago or whatever, but I don't be listening to you.
Well, so basically, the way I see it is on paper, this fight's basically fairly even, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, on paper, it's pretty even. Oliveira is the longtime UFC fighter that people are just more aware of. So I would tend to think
yeah.
that he would get the nod where the money would come in on his
Mhm,
side, making him the favorite. And that's why I would think that that it could be where it is right now.
mhm.
With that said, my prediction is Michael Chandler by first round knockout. I think he overwhelms Charles Oliveira, does like he did to Dan Hooker. I don't think Oliveira will be able to take him down. I think Chandler will shake him off, and I think Chandler's
Yeah,
on a run right now,
yeah,
to get the championship and complete this mission, and just continue to prove that there's MMA outside of the UFC that's been going on for a long, long time. And if
yeah,
he's able to match what Eddie Alvarez did and win the title,
yeah.
along with what all the Strike Force and WEC guys have done,
Yep.
I really feel like we got to eventually get to a point where people just throw down being, become MMA fans, and
Yeah,
don't knock organizations and fighters just because they don't watch them. Um,
yeah, yeah.
that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's win or lose, but I think Chandler wins this fight.
He
Um,
never not brings it. He never not brings it to any fight he's going. Even I mean, people. And I know. Talking about the Pitbull brothers, Patricio was throwing some shade his way earlier this afternoon, and which is fine. I mean, that's the
that's fine.
last guy.
Uh,
That's the last guy to beat him. But even in his loss, even when you look at his losses, like that fight. I mean, that fight, the loss against Brent Primus, which was one of these weird leg nerve damage kicks, that the calf kick issue. Um, he had a bad night overall in New York City because of the whole stool thing, and
mhm.
but he always. I mean, Michael Chandler. To anyone that is unfamiliar with Michael Chandler and listens to this podcast, I suggest just go look for training footage of him. You'll see him scrambling and grappling and sparring with the likes of Kamaru Usman and other high-profile fighters, and it will literally make you tired watching it. Just watch him getting ready for anything. Um, this guy is 24. He's more than dedicated. If you listen to today's, I think it was today or yesterday, the ESPN interview that Dana White did with Brett Okamoto, where he talks about Chandler in this fight and Chandler's mentality, the reason why he wound up with the UFC, and willing to step in as like he just says yes to everything. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls off a win here. You know what I mean? I mean, you and I, longtime Bellator guys, we followed Chandler's whole career. So I mean, I guess we're on the same page with this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
just think he's unstoppable right now.
Hmm.
Barring a fluke. I mean, he avenged the Primus loss. He came back and dominated him,
Yeah.
won the title back. That was a fluke, not a fluke. Primus kicked him, and his leg went numb. And yeah, the same situation we just recently had in the UFC.
Hmm.
Um, I just I don't know. I mean, I'm heavily rooting for him. I don't think that's I'm not going to hide that fact, but I just I don't know where Charles Oliveira beats him, barring us getting to like the third or fourth, fifth round, when Chandler were to get tired and Oliveira were to use his jujitsu, get a dominating position that Chandler couldn't get out of. But I don't know if he'll be able to get through the firestorm of the first, say, 7 minutes of the fight that Chandler's going to bring.
Hmm.
Um, I just I I see him coming out for the kill. Um, and
Yeah.
that's just the way I see it. So yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty much on board.
Yeah.
other than you had Ferguson, so I think that was the only fight we really just we
Yeah.
even that one we both agree is pretty much a toss up. So
Yeah.
total entertaining card, start to finish. Jacare Souza on the prelims, KGB Lee versus Antonina Shevchenko, a couple of the bigger names, Lando Veneta on the card as well. So this will be one where, as long as cross our fingers, we don't lose any more fights, that it should be a nice night of action. So again, that's UFC 262 this Saturday on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. Fans can always check us out at All Access MMA. That's the home of our video podcast. Check out allaccessmma.com for news and stories in the world of MMA. Fans can always follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Oldhead Carb on Twitch. Follow the podcast at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Ed, let's get through this, see how Chandler looks, and start moving on where the lightweight division is going to go from here, because you got McGregor and Poirier sitting by, and then you got Gaethje, who are obviously waiting patiently to see how this unfolds.
Yeah, poor guy. They keep throwing him under the bus, but yeah. All right, well, enjoy the week, everybody.